Good evening, everyone. We can be a little louder. I know it's not many of us, but good evening. So we just want to say thank you for coming out tonight for the NCAA Sports Symposium. I want to thank Ray Strickland Foundation, Ray, and Coach Taylor for their work behind the scenes to bring in our panelists. I want to clap it up for our panelists tonight. And so on tonight, and thank you for that, on tonight, we have professionals at the collegiate level in many different seats that have a great experience for our students, student athletes, and parents, and those watching via live. You may have questions that can be answered on tonight from the panelists. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Ray. Ray, if you would come forward.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me? I don't like talking in the microphone, but I understand for purposes of video, we got to do it. Just to kind of give a brief introduction of myself. I don't want to make it about myself. I want to make this platform about you all. But my name is Ray Strickland, CEO, founder of the Ray Strickland Foundation, a nonprofit organization that focuses on mental health, social emotional learning, and providing scholarships specifically to students from Chester that have graduated from Chester High. I did play basketball and football here at Chester, won a state championship in 2000, was able to go on to the professional level and play overseas. So my whole thing has been giving back to my community. And today, I wanted to do that with you all and bring in a star-studded lineup of panelists that I have personal relationships with that can help us as parents and student athletes to make it to the next level. If I'm being honest, my mother didn't know half of the things that we're going to speak about today regarding how to get into college, how to conduct yourself, social media awareness, presence. There was no NIL when I was in school, to be able to speak those different things. I'm really excited about it. So I wanted it to be more like a conversation. Think of it like the barbershop. It's not super formal. It's not, any of that. This is family, kind of speaking to each other. So when the opportunity presents itself for you all to ask questions, please feel free to do so. Really briefly, I'm going to allow our panel to introduce themselves and just tell you a little bit about what it is that they do. Thank you.
Good evening. Mark Bennett, Associate Athletic Director, Compliance at Lincoln University, also a Chester High School graduate. Here played baseball and football, class of 2013 Hall of Fame.
Good evening, Linnell Mosley, Assistant Women's Basketball Coach at Penn State Brandywine, also Athletic Director at Strathaven.
Hi, everyone. Well, Dan Hartzman, currently the Director of External Communication at Alvernia University in Reading, Pennsylvania. I've lived and worked on a college campus my whole life. I was an assistant basketball coach, coached Mr. Strickland and a couple of the panels. I was that for 14 years. I worked in our admissions office for 14 years, and now I do most of my work with alumni and parents. So again, I've been fortunate to spend all of my professional life on a college campus.
So I'm Bilal Salam. I'm the Athletic Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Sounds like I'm speaking to myself. Athletic Diversity and Inclusion Officer at Kutztown University. I'm also the Assistant Men's Basketball Coach. I played at Kutztown University from 2001 to 2005. I grew up not far from here in Wilmington, Delaware, and went to Howard High School. And I played 12 years of professional basketball overseas. So I had a pretty good career with basketball. But I'm now at the school working with multiple sports. So I think I have a pretty good understanding of what it takes to be a student athlete right now.
Hi, good evening. My name is Dan Burke. I am the head coach at Wilmington University. I also serve as coordinator of student concerns, and I instruct classes in the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences.
All right, my name is Salim Brown. I'm also a Chester resident. I spent 17 years at Cabrini University. 12 of that was spent coaching men's basketball. The rest was spent also teaching classes, admissions, and fundraising. Currently, I work in sales, so traveling pretty much the whole entire country. So, pass it on.
Hey, everybody. My name is Steve Pina. I'm a sports and entertainment lawyer from Philadelphia. I also was a student athlete. I was a 7-time All-American track and field athlete at the University of Florida. I understand what it's like to be a student athlete. I also understand the transition and taking your degree into other areas and doing other things. I served as an NBA agent for a lot of years. I represented a lot of NBA players. I currently consult and work with schools on how to handle NIL in the future, where the NIL space is going, and also still advise kids and NBA players on post-career and things of that kind of nature, and also deal with high school athletes as they make the transition to playing college sports.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Brennan. I'm the head men's basketball coach at Rowan University, Chester native myself as well. So it's always an honor and privilege to get to come back and speak to the city and give yourself a hand for being here tonight and taking in this information. Take every opportunity you get. Like I said, going on my second season as the head coach at Rowan University. Prior to that, I was in higher ed administration, specifically admissions, for 10 years. So looking forward to tonight.
Good evening. I'm Mike Green. I'm from Philadelphia. I'm the head coach at Salem Community right now. Before this, I played 13 seasons overseas, and I also coached 2 years at Penn State as player development. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Walker. I'm an enrollment consultant for a company called Encora. I've spent over 20 years of my professional career working with college admissions, financial aid, helping institutions recruit students. I spent the first 10 years of my career at Alvernia, played with Strick, Coach Strick, worked with Dan down there as well. Also spent 8 or 9 years at Delaware Valley College, now University, up in Doylestown. I spent some time at Albright, so have a long career working in admissions, financial aid, and now I get to see the other side of it with helping institutions across the country recruit students, and so have that background of admissions and the college search process.
Good evening. My name is Cornell Merricks, currently the Director of Recruiting at Penn State Abington. Was a teammate of Ray Strickland in college. Also, my assistant coach was Dwayne Walker and Dan Hartzman. Prior to that, prior to coaching, well, this is my 10th year coaching. Prior to that, I just did a little tour with the Washington Generals, tour with the Globetrotters. It was a good experience. Now I'm just coaching youth and just trying to get guys and young ladies to be able to elevate to the next level with self-esteem and just preaching the word of education.
Marvin Kilgore. I'm from Philadelphia. I'm an assistant men's basketball coach at Salem Community College with head coach Mike Green. I'm a former athlete. I went to University of Texas, El Paso. After I graduated and got my degree at El Paso, I played for a few seasons overseas, and since then I've been back mentoring and coaching kids in North Philadelphia, and up until now coaching with Mike at Salem Community College.
Appreciate you all for introducing yourselves. I wanted to give a special thanks to Coach Keith Taylor, one of my former coaches here. We did do this platform years ago over Zoom during COVID, but in person, I just feel like we're going to get so much more out of it. So thank you again to you, Coach, for your support, and also Coach Bell once again. The first question, for the panel, for parents and student athletes to understand. How many people ever heard of a FAFSA? Who's heard of a FAFSA? Students, you heard of a FAFSA? All right, we're gonna explain, in particular, any of our admissions folks. I'm gonna pick on Coach Walker. To talk to us about what a FAFSA is.
Testing. Appreciate that. I knew you was gonna pick on me first, Strick. I don't know why. I just knew that was what's gonna happen. For those of you who are entering the college search process, the FAFSA is a super important part of that enrollment process for you. It stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And your counselor, I know, is very familiar with that. Your college and career counselor who can help you through that process. But really, it is the form and tool that the government uses to determine financial aid eligibility at any institution that you might be considering. And so filling out that FAFSA is super important, super critical in terms of affordability, receiving maximum financial aid for you, your family. Some of it could be scholarship related, institutional aid, grant aid, but that FAFSA is a super important, critical part of the process. It will take your family's tax information, income information, and provide institutions with what you can afford for college. Then it's the institution's job to provide you aid, scholarships to match that, or not to match that, but kind of help to get you there in terms of affording education at the institutions you might be considering. So, critical part of the process in terms of application, admissions. For those, any of you are seniors, any students who are high school seniors, couple hands raised. That form will be available to you starting in December. We think it's been a lot of changes this year. It's been, those of you who are still in that seat, it's been a crazy, crazy year for FAFSA. So starting December, supposedly it's supposed to be available, and there should be workshops, information for you to be able to get that filled out, and make sure you get that information in. So.
Before I allow you to elaborate, Coach, I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more, if you can, on the timing. From my understanding, if you don't fill that information out in a certain time frame, you could be penalized and not get the maximum amount if you wait.
Definitely, yes. I have to put my coaching voice back on for a second. It's been a minute. Definitely. So this year, it's been a weird year. There's a lot of things in flux with the FAFSA and with the timing, but it's supposed to be available December 1st. And I'll say the days of past, you needed to fill that form out here in the state of Pennsylvania by May 1st. So that's been kind of that cutoff date to receive maximum financial aid from the state of Pennsylvania. But really, it's important to pay attention to the institutions that you're considering, their websites, because individual institutions might have deadlines as well. So definitely by May 1st, get that filled out. That's historically what it's been. I think this year they pushed it back to June 1st, but abide by those dates, opening December 1, May 1, but really take a look at those schools' websites to see what deadlines they might have. Some schools have preferred deadlines for maximum aid, apply by this date for special scholarships. So that's all wrapped into that scholarship, grant, affordability, financial aid process we have to be aware of. So.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? I'm Mr. Franklin. I'm the college and career counselor. I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware. More information will be given out at back to school night, but we already have our two first FAFSA workshops. The first one is going to be held on September the 24th, and the second one is going to be held on October 16th. So for parents and students, the FAFSA workshops are going to be held. The first one will be on September the 24th. The second one is going to be on October 16th.
So I'm just going to add to that the importance of filling out the FAFSA. Many universities and coaches base their athletic scholarships based on your FAFSA. So a lot of schools won't even give you an athletic offer until you complete your FAFSA, because what they try and do is combine the information that they get in their FAFSA to then add their athletic scholarship to try and get you the most money as possible. But they can't do that until they know exactly what your FAFSA says and how much you're going to get from that. So this could actually slow up your process from getting an athletic offer if you don't get the FAFSA done in time.
Can we talk about what information is asked for on FAFSA, such as return? Can we talk about the information that is going to be required with the FAFSA form? Whose information needs to be on there? It's not only the student. That money depends on the income of your parents. So we should definitely bring that up, please.
Which one of our experts want to address that? Okay.
So I don't want to generalize, but most of the population in the city of Chester, you're gonna, more times than not, be a Max Pell student. I was a Max Pell student. That means you receive the most aid you can get from the federal government. And to his point, that's gonna even benefit your chances for scholarships from more schools. But the thing with the FAFSA is, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but you want to file under, if your parents file separately, you want to correct. So they're going to ask for your taxes, to answer your question directly. They're going to ask for taxes from the previous year. If the parents file separately, you're going to want to file under the parent that makes less money, because then that will qualify you for more aid through the federal government. I think that's fine to say.
We can, listen, we can say it. It's family. We can say it.
Look, like, I mean, we're being recorded. If parents aren't together, you want to follow under a parent that makes less money. You're going to qualify for more aid that way. All right. And they're going to need your tax return from the year before. But it makes sense for majority. It makes sense for everyone to do the FAFSA. I think it's a requirement now, but especially for kids from the city of Chester, more likely than not, you're going to qualify for the max. So get that in, get that free money. It makes college that more affordable. And I'm going to pass it over to.
Real quick. Is it better, like if your parent is a retired veteran, to just use him?
Check all the boxes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I'll go a little bit deeper with that. If you are a retired veteran, you should check, because there's money available for, so definitely look, and it depends on the school, but definitely look into that. But also, yes, definitely, I would say the workshops that's going to be held at this school, you want to make sure that you attend that workshop, because the FAFSA is not a one-time deal. You have to do that each year that you're at the institution. So every year you're going to be getting those tax forms, filling out this form. It's need-based aid. One thing you have to understand is, like you said, you want to get the full amount that you can get. So, for example, if you're a Pennsylvania resident, you go to a Pennsylvania school, you're going to get what is called a PA state grant, right? Keep in mind about that PA state grant. If you go out of state, then you may lose that opportunity to get that PA state grant. So that's something that you need to make sure of. So if you live in Chester, you want to go to a school in Delaware, you may not get that PA state grant. And from my knowledge, it used to be around $4,000 that they would give you for the state grant. So just keep in mind, hey, when I'm going out of state to go to school, you may lose that $4,000. So you got to figure up a way to make that $4,000 up. And we'll get into probably GPA, but just understand that the FAFSA is a need-based situation, and then your academic scholarship comes in with your GPA and test scores.
I have a question that I want to ask you guys. This is kind of like an experiment, and this is actually a good way to ask this question. So one of the things that I've tried to do with I have a very good understanding of social media, being a entertainment lawyer, and I want to ask everybody in here, how many of you guys actually pay attention and use TikTok? I'm just curious. Raise your hand if you guys are on TikTok and things like that. All the kids. I want to know the kids. Don't be embarrassed. Pretty much everybody? So let me ask you guys a question. With what these gentlemen up here have talked about, if there was somebody who, I'm literally texting her while we're having this conversation, for example, was maybe a dean at a college, and they did TikToks that literally dumbed down this whole process and broke it down in a way that made a lot of sense to you guys, how many of you guys would actually find that instrumental and helpful?
I'm not even a student.
Yeah, I actually believe it baffles me that with the evolution of with so many things at our kids' disposal, we tend to have this archaic way of explaining information, disseminating information, and so forth. And I've been a proponent of trying to find creative ways to help our kids be able to relate to things. And this idea just really came about from the political process, was just understanding local elections. And I said, you know what, we should do the same thing with college. I have a friend who was explaining to me that she's a dean at Rosemont, ironically, and she was explaining to me that so many kids and parents don't understand the FAFSA form. And unfortunately, a lot of times they tend to look like us and from certain, from the inner city. So I was just curious if there was somebody that could break this stuff down in a way that was simplified, could walk you guys through things like what you just talked about the PA grant and things of that kind of nature. Do you guys think that would be helpful? This is kind of really just me just gathering information. So just kind of raise your hands again if y'all think that would be helpful. And for parents as well. Okay, thank you. That's good information.
I know for a lot of Pennsylvania state schools, it's almost mandatory in order to get other grants as well that you fill out the FAFSA. So when you go to the financial aid office, you can be, you have more access to more grants as your GPA increases, as they better understand what majors you're in as you go throughout the college process. So if you go in and you're undecided your freshman year, you go through that process, and by the time you're into your second year, you got a 3.5, 3.8, and you're in the STEM field, you may qualify for another grant. You may qualify for another scholarship. And that might be need-based, but if you've never filled out that FAFSA, you won't qualify for it because it's need-based and they don't have your information on file. So it's important for a multitude of things that you fill out the FAFSA.
Thank you. Before we move on, I'm going to give Ralph a question, but if you guys have any more questions or you wanted to elaborate on that, let us know before we move on.
I want to ask, what if you have multiple children in college? Well, do they both have to do the FAFSA every year?
Yes.
So would it hurt their funding, each child, would it hurt their funding, or it doesn't matter?
So 100% yes, each child in the family, each student has to do the FAFSA, and surprisingly, the parents have to do the FAFSA for each child. So it might be kind of redundant, I guess, as you think, or just fill this information out. But there is a form with the government. They try to make it a little bit easier for you, but it's government forms. I mean, the thing I'll say to you is that definitely the financial aid night that's here at your school, come ask a lot of those questions. But typically, when a family has more than one student in college at a time, you do get more financial aid. The rules have changed a little bit this past year. The way the federal government changed the FAFSA form, there's more students who are into different brackets, and it's crazy the way they've done it. But typically the student actually gets more, the family will get more financial aid. And so those grants, those scholarships from the government still go to each student, and then the institution typically kicks in more because there's more students in college.
No, that's awesome. I learned something new. I didn't know that. I guess my sisters are older than me. We weren't in college at the same time, so that's a great question. Thank you for that, Oof. Next point. This one is a little bit of a touchy subject. Just as a former athlete myself, I didn't play Division I basketball. I played Division III basketball, and I got an opportunity to move on to play professionally. There's a huge misconception that everybody got to go D1. And I got several guys up here that actually did go D1. And I wanted them to kind of talk about their experiences and elaborate on what they kind of had to go through. And it's a question, and it's a rhetorical one. Are you a Division I player? Are you a Division I player? Because everybody think they're a Division I player, but everybody's not a Division I player. So I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. There are certain things that you have to do athletically, mentally, academically to be a Division I player. So I'm gonna start with Mr. Mike Green. I'm gonna brag for him. High-level Division I point guard, high-level professional basketball player, European Champions League MVP. So I can't think of too many others to answer these sorts of questions. So, Mr. Mike Green.
Got you. Appreciate that, Strick. That was a lot. The Division I window is really, really small. Just got to think about the USA and how many people actually playing, not just basketball, how many people playing sports. You walk to your local park, probably not so much now, but in 2008, you walk to your local park, there's 1 million people out there playing basketball. And it's tough. It's not just about your ability to play basketball. It's about some of the things he said, your mental, your drive, your hunger, being on time for things. And, you got a lot of guys that get that Division I scholarship and, end up dropping down because it's too much for them, not because of their skill most of the times, but it's just too much for them. You got to be accountable. Sometimes you're away from family and friends. It's a whole different ball game. Coming from Philadelphia, I first went to Towson in Maryland, and then from there I transferred out there and went to Butler, even further. And that Midwest life was like completely different for me. Like I learned a lot. I didn't know how to use a fork and a knife together. It sounds simple, but I legit didn't know that you use a fork and knife. You know what we do? We got the fork and we got our finger and we scooping like that. So I was learning things like that, in my junior year. But it's all about being held accountable, having the right people behind you, pushing you. Like I was one of the ones that I didn't really have nobody that already did it, coming from where I grew up at, specifically, because Philadelphia is probably like Chester. You got North Philly, that's a whole different city. South Philly is a different city. Uptown is a different city. So we got so many different cities within Philly. So from my area, he's from my area as well. But my personal area, there was nobody that did it. So I didn't have many people to lean on. All I had to go off is what the people in front of me did wrong. You know what I'm saying? So nobody was telling me you do this right. I just had to, look around and see exactly who was doing wrong and go the opposite way. So that's how I learned. And tonight we got, all these guys at the table giving you information that, your buddy can't give you, your old head can't give you, your parents possibly can't give it to you. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it's tough, man. It takes a village. They say it takes a village. It legit takes a village to help guys, in our upbringing get away. So D1 wasn't easy. It definitely wasn't easy. I'm sure Division II just as hard, and I'm sure Division III is the hardest of them all. It's not easy. One thing I want to say is now that I'm coaching junior college at Salem, and those guys are, whatever that FAFSA's not covering, they got to pay out of their pocket. Same, I think, in Division III, some Division IIs as well. And now that I'm on the other side of it, don't go wasting nobody's money, man. Don't go wasting nobody. Don't waste your parents' money. Don't waste your own money. Don't take out those loans if you ain't fully ready to commit, because it's tough. It's tough. I got friends that's paying back money now because they didn't commit. They went there for a year because everybody else was going there and dropped out. So it's all about, you know, having a village around you and having that willpower to get through it, because it's not easy.
I'll tell y'all a little from my personal experience. I think making it to the Division I level is all about your discipline. Because once you get on campus, you're going to be on a tight schedule. You're going to have weights, class in the morning, weights, lunch, workouts afterward, study hall after that. You're going to be on a tight schedule every day. This is every day. It's a grind, and you got to be disciplined, and you got to be ready for that. Because if you're not, you're going to wind up like I did. I went to school. I was a good basketball player, but I wasn't disciplined, and I wasn't ready for that level of discipline and to be held accountable, like Coach Mike Green said. I went there playing around, messing around, thinking it was high school still, and I wound up flunking out, and I had to go to junior college and get my grades back up. And I was lucky enough to get another scholarship to UTEP to play. And there I kind of got my act together and got my grades together, and I was able to graduate and do good things. So I think the biggest thing is discipline. Discipline is what's going to separate you. All right.
Okay. I'll just add to that. If you have a college that's interested in you, regardless of division, please take it serious. I work at a Division II, and it's just as hard. But what the trend is, just to give you a trend, I started at Lincoln 3 years ago. Let's just say each year the football team will bring in 25 people. It used to be maybe 18 to 19 high schoolers and maybe 5 transfers. This year we had about 17 transfers. That means the opportunities for high schoolers are getting smaller and smaller due to the transfer portal. You have to take any interest from a coach, regardless of whether it's Division I, Division II, or Division III, very serious, because the opportunity may go away. Your opportunity may be given to a transfer student in the blink of an eye. And that's real talk from someone who deals with it every day in compliance. Think about that. 3 years ago, 20 high schoolers had an opportunity to go to college. Now it might be 5 to go to that one school.
So I wanted to talk, this is going to be specifically for the young ladies in here. I know Chester has an incredible tradition of track and field. I remember when I was at Roman Catholic and we used to run against Chester High, I remember some of the guys and the girls and so forth. And as I was thinking about this, about what's a Division I athlete, young ladies, the NCAA is about to change a rule with a lot of Division I schools where they're now going to allow schools that have non-revenue producing sports, so like track and field, tennis, baseball. The revenue producing sports have always been football and basketball. So they allowed partial scholarships for track and field, things of that kind of nature. Well, they're now passing a law with this whole NIL thing tied together that they're just going to allow these non-revenue producing sports. So I'm going to use track and field, for example. They're going to allow upwards to 30 full scholarships for female track and field athletes. And I'm expressing that because when I was talking to my coach, who was the head coach at the University of Florida, Mike Holloway, it was almost like he was laughing. He said, Stephen, there's not even going to be enough talent to cover 30 full scholarships. Listen to what I'm saying, full scholarships. So track and field, historically, if you were good, you might have got a 60% scholarship to go to Arkansas or go to University of Florida or North Carolina. Now they're giving out full scholarships for these same type of athletes. So I don't know how many young ladies in here, and I'm specifically talking to the women because the scholarships, because of Title IX, are going to be higher. I want the women to understand there's going to be a plethora of scholarship opportunities for you guys. Track and field, women's lacrosse, things that you guys, even if you don't know how to play, the fact that you're fast, they're going to give you these. Yes, go ask your question. I'm sorry.
Is volleyball a non-revenue sport?
Volleyball is also a non-revenue producing sport. But what that means is Do you understand when I say non-revenue producing sport? Okay, so they're going to be giving out full scholarships now for volleyball. So if I'm just throwing a hypothetical number, if in the past it was 13 scholarships, now they're giving out 24. So that means there's going to be, a lot of more athletes who are going to have the opportunity to play sports and on full scholarships. This is a deal that the NCAA is making with the schools as they start to institute this whole salary cap thing coming up.
And I think that also encourages students to not focus on these revenue sports, flag football, basketball. There is an array of sports out there that you guys could take advantage of. He is telling us that these colleges are saying, hey, these girls know how to play other sports, and we are opening up the bag for them to come to college.
For example, let me give you a funny story. So a lot of Division I schools recently have started having women's lacrosse and women's field hockey. Historically, those are not sports that we have been privy to. We don't have the resources. These are expensive sports. But they started to say, you know what? Some of these women are fast. We'll redshirt them for a year and teach them how to play because they have the one thing that we can't coach, which is speed. But we don't even have the information, which is why I'm so happy that Ray had this, is because really, it's about giving you guys the information to help you guys come up with different opportunities and variables. Like, I am so happy for this. Like, I'm really excited because I think every single person sitting here that wants to have the opportunity to go to college should have the opportunity to go to college. And there's just so many different ways, whether it's Division I, Division II, or Division III. The portal is real. It is. But they're also, this is why I said I'm really speaking to the women here, because they're leveling the playing field for Title IX, which is giving you guys a lot more opportunities. So just keep that in mind. I can get it, but I'll let one of the coaches.
So a red shirt is a student athlete who's coming in and doing everything with the team, being a full-time student, practicing, lifting, traveling if they're academically eligible, but they're not participating in the games. So what that does is it saves a year of eligibility. So in essence, you can be in school for 5 years and still have your 4 years to play. So that allows you more likelihood that you get your degree, right? It allows you some wiggle room to take some classes that you might not have to take in the summer. You can take those in your redshirt year. So I think it's a very valuable tool, especially for somebody who has aspirations to maybe be a scholarship level player, but has mostly non-scholarship interests, right? If you can connect with a scholarship level coach in your sport, if they can see some potential, but maybe they think you might need to get a little bit stronger. Maybe they think you might need to learn to keep up with the pace of the game. So you practice with that team for a year, and then in your sophomore academic year, you're just starting your athletic career, right? So it allows you a little bit of a head start, right? Where you're a sophomore academically, but starting as a freshman athletically, right? So that's essentially what a redshirt year is. Sure.
See, man, I appreciate you, Steve. That's why I bought a lawyer.
Hey, y'all. So I have a question to piggyback on the red shirt situation. What advice would you give to a student that is put in a red shirt situation? Because what we see happens is they get discouraged or they feel like, why would I go to practice if I'm not even playing? So, like, what advice do you have for that?
So I should have said also that another way to redshirt is due to an injury, right? So we've had guys come into our program before where we see some potential in them and they come with the agreement that they're going to redshirt their freshman year and then be a sophomore academically when they start their career, right? So it's not to say it's not hard, because it's not fun not playing and doing all the hard work, and because college athletics is a grind, right? It's early mornings, late nights, especially when you're not playing. But I would encourage that person just to keep the long run in mind. You're trying to win the war, not the battle. You know, you decided to be a redshirt because you have the ultimate goal to be the best player you can be at the highest level possible. in 5 years. So just take your time with your progression. But then you can also redshirt if you get injured. So if you come in traditionally and play as soon as you arrive on campus, if you get hurt, you can redshirt during your career, save that year, and still have your 4 years to play.
Just to piggyback off you, Coach, I redshirted. So when I played, you had to, if you transferred from a school, you had to sit out a year. There was no transfer portal. So automatically, if you transferred out, you had to sit out a year. So I sat out a year at Butler. So I did 5 years to play 4 years. So I think my redshirt year was kind of boring, like you said, kind of like disinterest. But I think I got so much better my redshirt year, just seeing the game. You got to think about it. Most times when you're a certain level athlete, you're not really sitting down and watching the game. So that was the first time in my life I got a chance to sit down and watch other people play. So I think that mentally built me stronger than I ever been before. So I came back out after that year and I played the best year I ever played. Then again, I played the best year I ever played. So I think that redshirt year, I don't think it's something you frown upon. It's almost like you're kind of getting a foot up on everybody else. So that redshirt year for me was like the best thing that happened to me. So it's not nothing to frown upon at all.
Yeah, just want to add on to that. I think your redshirt year is kind of like a reclass, if that makes sense. Like if you come in and you take it seriously, and you, like Marvin was saying, you got to have the discipline to stay engaged with the game mentally. I think that's the biggest part of it. Can I come? Can I work out? Go hard every day, even though I'm not playing, right? Another thing I was going to add about Division I, Division II, Division III, Strick would have been a Division I player. Many of the people up here who are Division II now would be Division I players. They would have got in the portal and been out of there quickly. I know Eric, he would have been Division I. I'm not sure who else is on the stage that played Division II, but if you were all conference, player of the year, so on and so forth on the Division II level, you probably going Division I. And many of the young people today who have the opportunity to play Division III or Division II basketball, you have to go in, and if you think that you're a Division I player, you gotta work hard and continue to believe in yourself. My experience was when I first came out of high school, I was 6'2", right? I'm 6'6.5" now, right? And I went to Delaware State, did not play at all. Took a year off and then entered school again at Kutztown University, led the nation in block shots as a freshman. I would have been Division I for sure, right? And it's about having that commitment to your success, because I didn't know I was going to grow 4 inches in 2 years, which was crazy. But you got to be committed to the passion that you have and belief that you have in your heart, because only God gave you that. So if you can hang on to that and be disciplined with that, then you could possibly be a Division I player later. So you may come in as a Division II, Division III player, and like Coach said, take it seriously. Take it seriously, because the opportunity is all that you need to be successful. Somebody's going to see it, right? And you have to believe in it.
I had a question. So say you redshirt your year and you play in practice and you play good in practice, you're getting better, and you think you come in as a D2 player, you play good in practice, and you think you're able to play the Division I level. So do you just go in practice, record your film, send that to coaches, stuff like that, if you want to go to the next level?
So I would say this. I think everything happens in due time, right? So if you're somebody who comes in redshirts and you get the confidence that you could play not only at the level that you're playing, but at a higher level, I'm not sure how valuable practice film would be to a Division I coach who would have to invest a full scholarship. They will probably want to see proof in a game that you can do what you proved in practice. But I think that's another reason that redshirting is so valuable, because what you just said, building confidence. Like you might go in and say, man, am I ready for this? And then by the end of your season, a full year of practice, you're like, man, I can play. Not just here, but maybe at a higher level, right? But then you would have to do that in competition under the whistle, like in a real game, probably.
And I'm gonna say this also. My story is a little unique here. Some of the people in the room that know me, they know. I'll say go where you're wanted, regardless of the level. Coach Keith will tell you, at one point, I didn't make Chester High's varsity team until I was a senior. I didn't play until I was a senior. I also didn't get in the game until like the 10th game of the year. I just continued to get better. A school took a chance on me. They wanted me. And I just worked hard. I was unrecognizable as a player from age 17, 10 games in to my senior year, to becoming the player that I became. So it was the hard work. I didn't care if my tag said Division I behind it. At the end of the day, somebody gave me a check to be good and to, play basketball. So don't worry about the level. Worry about who wants you. If you're going to go there, they want you, you're going to play, go there. I've seen a lot of people go Division I and sit on the bench just to say they're Division I. You know what I'm saying? So go where you're wanted. I just wanted to add that.
We're just turning Division III, so we were in the PSUAC for Penn State Brandywine, so now we're a Division III school. But when you're at the school, like, make the most of it. We had a girl who played for us who had her jersey hanging in the rafters in Tennessee. So it doesn't matter where you go, it's what you make of it. And if she wanted to go play overseas, she could play overseas. So just because you're not a Division I player, Strick's an example, he still got to play overseas, and that can go from any level that you're at.
Sorry. I kind of look at it like a sliding scale, right? So you might have one school that show you interest way up here, right? The highest level that shows you interest. Other schools might be at a lower level. That sweet spot is probably somewhere in the middle, right? Where you're going to be challenged and play at the highest level that you can, but also where you have a chance to be successful and get on the court or the field as soon as possible, right? So a lot of times I think just in our society, as soon as someone gets D1 interest, everyone says, oh, that's the level that that person has to go to. But ultimately, that the best decision is probably somewhere in the middle between the highest school you heard from and the lower level schools you heard from, because you want to be able to show what you can do and not just wait and wait and wait and wait, right? So.
I just wanted to touch on the Division III level. I played there, and a lot of the times we played against guys that played at the Division I level. For whatever reason, they ended up going to the Division III level and playing, but we've seen no big difference, and I think Strick can agree with that. Far as talent-wise, it's just a matter of guys did things that what they were supposed to do, and they was blessed to get in that situation. But at the end of the day, regardless of what school you go to, it's about what's after the sport, right? You're able to network, you're able to meet different people from different backgrounds, from different places where you never thought you might meet these people, and some of them become lifelong friends. So at the end of the day, basketball is a privilege to play, or any sport is a privilege to play, but what are you doing outside of that? You won't let that define you as an individual. Well, so going to these universities, seeing whatever, the other things, the other resources they have, are very critical too when you're thinking about college, because not everybody is able to make it to the pro level. So how do you identify it after that ball get flat? So.
Y'all Strick family, so I guess y'all my family too. I'm gonna keep it real with you. These coaches now, I'm coaching too now. Coaches, the Division I level are looking for NBA players. Division II level is looking for Division I players. Division III is looking for Division II players. Everybody's sandbagging. So if you think you're a Division II player and you're not getting that Division II look, it's because of that transfer portal. We're waiting on them Division I guys to drop down. If you're on that Division II level and and you getting D3 looks, and the Division II's holding off on you because they wait for them Division II, they waiting on the Division I drop. So everybody's sandbagging. So like they said, you got to find that interest at the top, the middle, and at the bottom, and you got to pick what's right for you. Because don't get caught up on them levels, because it goes fast. It's a really small window. I think it got up to 900. Last I saw it this year, it was up to like 900, and some of them still there now in the portal. There's a couple of guys still. It was over 1,000 this year, and there's a bunch of them still there. About 300 or 400 still in the portal.
Yeah, 40% of the student athletes that entered the portal is still in there. 40%. That's why when these guys are talking about commitment, you got to be committed. You got to come. You got to make a good decision from the beginning. I think I'm a firm believer that there's two decisions in life that's very important: where you go to college at to begin with, and the person you marry. Like it's that serious, right? Because you got to be committed to this process over time. So you got to be serious about it. Like Coach said, you got to take this seriously, and you got to be prepared. I think that preparation beats everything. Preparation beats everything. And if you prepared to be committed, then you're going to be successful. And the same thing with both of those situations, out of college and getting married. You need to be prepared for it.
Coach, I made that decision a couple of times though. There's a couple. It's a couple more. You know, there's a couple of more. But yeah, he's definitely right. He's definitely right. Like everybody's here is saying the same thing. You know, choose what's best for you. Choose what's best for you. Coach Burke said it best, man. You're gonna have guys here. You're gonna have the middle. You're gonna have there. You gotta choose what's best for you. Not what your friend think. Not what whoever gonna get you the most Instagram followers. Whoever gonna get you the most likes on the picture that you committed to a Division II school. Go where you got the best chance of playing. I had multiple Division I offers, and I went where I felt like I had the best chance of playing. I got my butt kicked 2 years straight, probably won 8 games, 8-40. But I played. I got that experience, and I played. Versus going somewhere else where I probably wouldn't have played. I probably would have dropped down. So it's very important to go where you think you have the best chance.
So before I ask my question, I got a comment on that the Division I and Division II. I went to a Division II school, St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina. And coming from Chester, I had a Chester mentality on me. Can't nobody play ball like us. Can't nobody play. Then I'm going to Division II. Until I got there and seeing players from Detroit, Baltimore, New Orleans, and said, man, we're not the only ones who play ball. So like you said, get in where you fit in and take advantage of where you are. But my question is, walk us through a recruitment process. We got a lot of athletes in here who's trying to get that scholarship.
I ain't got no scholarship.
Or even just getting to that school. Say, for instance, we got a basketball player. He's trying to, I ain't gonna get no scholarship because I ain't averaging 25. Like, what are you looking for in the player? What is the attributes in the player? Are you looking into his family? Are you looking into his education? Are you looking into more than just in season? Because we got a lot of students here who just think I need to go to class because it's that season. What about when the season is over?
Hey, real quick, he kind of just expedited our symposium because you see, like, all the questions we had, it was like that, your social media, parents playing a part in recruiting, like what's going on. So he just made it real family-like. So I'm going to just pass the mic around.
Well, hold on. Go ahead. Well, so back to what Mike said, and this gentleman, what's your name, bro? Bilal said, you know, you asked the question about starting off at D2 and trying to work your way up. This is going to be something that I'm hoping that we really focus on before this. This is part of the reason why I came, because one of the big things that I really wanted to talk about was mental health. And I really want to talk about the pressure that you guys have that we've never had. I graduated high school in '94. If there was one of my friends came to me and said, hey, you laughing because I sound old? Why are you laughing? When he said you did, yeah, right. If I had a friend in 1994 who said, man, I was going D2, man, I would have been happy. I would have been jumping through the roof for him. because that means we made it. But what's happening now is social media. So let me take a step back. So I always say it's 3 things that y'all generation has experienced that we probably never had. Everybody in here looks like they're, over a certain age. We never had to experience a pandemic. We never had to experience a domestic terrorist attack. And we never had to experience the emergence of social media. So usually when parents say, everything you've done, I've been there and done that. Well, any parent up here can really say, we went through those same things at the same time as you guys went through them. So we didn't have the same social pressures and mental health issues and things of that kind of nature. I personally, when I was an agent, I used to get really, really irritated and angry when I would sit in front of, and I'm just gonna keep it a buck, I would sit in front of these white GMs and these white people at the top of the level who would try to explain why black people would get to the NBA and why they would struggle. And they wouldn't understand that just because you made it, this brother right here just showed me his son who's a 5-star recruit in Florida, is probably gonna have the opportunity. But they don't realize for us, man, just because we made it out of Chester or made it out of North Philly, all of our struggles and stuff still, they didn't go away. You have a bunch of kids in here, we're gonna talk about NIL, and I'm sorry to digress a little bit, Strick, but talking about NIL and things of that kind of nature, they don't understand when we get NIL checks, our parents, our friends are asking for some of that money. So it's all these different things that we go through. So, and the reason why I wanted to express that, because when you talked about trying to transfer up, be proud of the fact that you got to where you are. These coaches talked about go where you love, not like, and that's a very, very important point. Because for us to get the opportunity, whether it's at Wilmington University, whether it's one of these schools, man, that means we got a real fucking chance. I'm sorry to curse, but I'm not passionate about this. We really, really got an opportunity. And if the opportunity presents itself, they're gonna come and find you. If you're a D2 player and a D1 coach says hits the portal, he's going to see you. But if you give everything that you have to get to that point, be proud of it and don't let the pressures or social media or anybody, because we didn't have that. And anybody can sit up here and say, oh, we don't know what it's like. But I'm telling you as somebody who deals with it with my own child, who played basketball, who had the pressure of dealing with a father who was an agent. I'm seeing Conrad walking here. I've seen Conrad since him and Shep Gardner when they was about 7, 8 years old playing Chester Biddy, seeing what these kids had to go through. So I'm just saying to you guys, if the opportunity presents itself, you take it and you run through a brick wall for it. And I'm pretty sure if Coach Burke sees a kid that he took that can play D1, he's gonna push you out the door. He's gonna call a D1 coach for you. Am I right or wrong? So just keep that in mind, because I wanna make sure that you guys understand about these social pressures and all these things that you guys go through, because I do empathize for that. And I'm sorry to digress a little bit. I just wanted to say that when you talked about that. But we got a question back here.
My question was more for the student athletes in the building. Can someone take a minute to explain what are the most important years of your high school career, not athletically, academically, to prepare yourself for the next level?
Oh man, from the start, before. Hey, which hard do you want? I think Coach Carol Lawson asked that question, right, from Duke. She said, which hard do you want? It's all hard. Do you want to be able to push the rock up the hill? Or do you want to have to grapple yourself up with your hands from underneath of the mountain with the boulder on your back? Which one do you want? You want to get you want to get ahead of it. You want the hard work ahead of you. Right? You want to push further, right? You want to do those things. So to me, you want to get the best grades early so you have something to fall back on, not the other way around, right? So,
two things on that, or one, and then going back to the transferring. So the reality, as well as admissions folks, when you say, oh, if there's any seniors here and you start applying to schools, we see your 9th, 10th, and 11th grade grades. Like, your senior grades matter, And if you are borderline for admission or a scholarship, we're looking at trajectory on your senior year, and we want to see you're challenging yourself. But your 9, 10, 11th, those are your completed grades. So they're all important, but those are on your transcript GPA. One thing about the transferring, and I support upward mobility and going to your highest level. And if the portal existed when Strick played, he'd have been in there every night. He scored 25. So they're right. He would have been moving. But something that what drives me, what hurts me as an admissions person and has worked in higher ed forever, because I've sat with these families that transfer. Every time you transfer, you may lose credits. So you may have had a 3.5 GPA, did your traditional 24, 26 credits, and you might transfer from Kutztown to Wilmington. But Kutztown calls a class Intro to Sociology, and Wilmington calls it Beginning of Sociology, and they're like, we're not gonna take that one. So think there's a cost benefit to every time you transfer. When I hear these students that are transferring 2, 3, 4 times, like, that's great athletically. But I always wonder, where are they at academically? Because the goal to play college sports is to graduate with a college degree. Like, hopefully you can play professionally and coach and do this, but you got to get the degree. And the more times you transfer or leave classes, the harder it is, and it could actually cost you money, sometimes chasing a higher level.
Yep. So I'm going to answer the last 2 questions real quick. What does recruiting look like? From a compliance officer's perspective, every high school person will need to be in the NCAA eligibility center, okay? That is where your grades will go. To what Coach just said, they're gonna look at your 9th, 10th, and 11th grade first. Where a lot of kids fall short is that they don't do well early, all right? You have to do good early, especially if you wanna go Division I, because there are 16 core classes that they will count towards your eligibility. Englishes, math, sciences. I see kids who have a 3.0 GPA until you pull out computers, gym, and all these other classes, and they got C's and D's in Englishes and math, and they're not eligible. You have to take the 16 core courses, which are your English, maths, and sciences. Now, how does that look in recruiting? Coach comes to my office, gives me your NCAA number, looks at your transcripts, see what you're doing and whether you're on a trajectory to graduate and be eligible. I've seen coaches come in my office after going to events with a list of names of maybe 10 kids. They look in the eligibility center, they leave with 2. You don't even know that they've looked at you, but they've already looked at your profile in the eligibility center, and you're not taking the right classes. So that's how recruiting looks, but it's also what is important. 9th, 10th, 11th grade. At Division I, 10 core classes, 10 credits from your core classes are locked in. So there is no more, I'm gonna do really, really good my senior year and make it. If you don't do good 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, they're gonna lock those grades in. You might not even be eligible.
Thank you for sharing that, because I was going to kind of piggyback on that. So I wasn't going to say anything my son probably don't like when I speak. But as a school counselor, and I've been around for a long time, so I graduated before '94, but I've been here at Chester High School prior to leaving with some of the most outstanding basketball players that are around, the Karans, the Rondays, and all of those individuals. And my biggest plea is always being a student athlete. I don't care how great you are on that ball. If you don't do well academically, your chances are slim to none. And I say that sincerely. My son is a 4.0 student, so we don't have that problem. But I say that sincerely, being a counselor, and I'd never forget having conversations with St. Joe's University, wanting to recruit students who didn't have the GPA. You can't play yourself into a D1 school when you got D's as a grade. So this is for every parent and every student. Most of y'all know Ms. Thompson. You have to take your education seriously, because at the end of the day, when the ball is over and the game is done, and you don't make it to that next level, your academics should be your final destination. Because outside of playing ball, what do you want to do? I ask this question all the time with students. What is your goal? And it grinds my gear. I want to play in the NBA. I want to play in the NFL. Well, that is in school, an extracurricular activity. Your first thing is, what is your field of study? What do you want to specialize in? What type of person do you see outside of basketball? And our students struggle with figuring that out. Everybody has dreams of being in the NFL and the NBA. I used to tell my oldest son in the NBA, how many teams? It's 30. How many people, how many slots available? How many people across America? If you can't find yourself at the top, just find a place where you're comfortable. Like you said, you go where you're wanted. Not just D1, I don't know, we're stuck on the D1, and we're stuck on being a professional. You're a professional within yourself in your career. At the end of the day, if you don't go in the NFL, the NBA, like you said, you can go overseas. Find a job. Legal. It's so many different realms of being in that atmosphere that you want to be outside of being on the court or on the field, tennis, etc. And there's so many more sports than basketball and football. You get more scholarships when you into other sports because you give yourself the opportunity. But I'm just glad that you guys are here to talk. And I love that you're very real and passionate, because I find that too. But as a parent, I find myself struggling to give my son what I give other students. And it's not his fault. He knows what he knows. He doesn't think his mother knows anything, but I've only been doing this for about 25 years. But we almost didn't make it. Because he was, I'm going because I signed up and you need to hear it, and I think it was beneficial to him and other ones. But I just want to continue to encourage. It's not about going to the NBA, it's about going to school for free to get opportunities.
Nah, that's awesome. Thank you for that feedback.
You only got a professional window 1 through maybe 15 years if you're lucky. So you probably stop playing whatever sport it is if you're lucky, 35 years old. You still got a whole 50 years possibly to figure out what you're going to do. And that's when the education part come in. So you're only playing sports, if you're lucky, 15 years. Let's say 15 years. No injuries, none of that. Let's say it's not even at the highest level. Because if you're in the NBA, you're a superstar, you don't need 15 years. But the majority of us need more than 15 years. Majority of us not going to the NFL, not going to the NBA. The majority. Somebody here going. I don't know who it is. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Somebody's going to go. Don't know who it is. But the majority of us not. So that education piece is very important, because once that ball stops bouncing, once the football got a flat, whatever, volleyball, whatever it is that you play, you need your education to fall back on for sure.
And so I just want to go back to the transcript thing really quick, because everything that they said up here is true. But one thing, I'll give you a quick story. A student came in, he had a good SAT score, he had about a 3.1 GPA, and then my dean said, no, deny him. I said, deny him? But he has a 980 SAT score and a 3 point. He said, look at his 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. What you missing here? And I said, he's doing good, 3.1. He said, no, look at his days absent. He's averaging 25 days absent a year, and he's late 40 times. So if you can't go to school and be on time, or you can't go, how are you going to be trusted around an 18-year-old when you're not doing it at home when your parents or your guardian around, right? So people look at your absence and also your lateness. So make sure you stay on top of that too. And if there's a reason, that's why you do an essay. Send an essay in. I had to work when I was in school. So sometimes, yeah, I may have been late, but I put that in my essay. Not only did I go to school, play a sport, but I also worked a job. I wanted people to know who I am. So sending the essay along with your transcripts and everything else is important. Doing a college visit, actually seeing where you're going to go to school at, looking at the dorms, looking at the cafeteria, seeing your area, that's important too. So yes, do well where you're at now, but just remember those things. And then when you talked about recruiting, The two things that I want off of is I want a player that has respect and I want a player that I can trust. So when I went to recruit at a high school, yeah, I talked to the coach. I knew the coach was going to give me glaring things about this kid, but I said, no, I want to talk to the janitor. Hey, you see this kid walk past? What do you do when he walk past? Do he speak to you? Do he say anything? Or do he just, man, look, he's just a janitor. I want to talk to the cafeteria people. I want to talk to the librarian. I want to know who you are for real, because the coach going to probably sell me up a river, right? But then I also want to trust you, because when you come to a college campus, my eyes sometimes can't be on you. So I got to trust that when you put whatever logo on, whether it's Duke or Cabrini, you're wearing our logo out. When you're on social media, you're wearing that logo. So we investing in you. We want you to invest back into the program, right? So I need somebody I can trust that's going to come to practice on time, that's going to be a leader, right? Those are the guys that I'm going to recruit. So I just wanted to add that point.
That's great. Yes, go ahead, Coach Dan.
So to piggyback on what he said, so the head coach is the head coach, right? So from an athletic perspective, that person is the head honcho. But guess what? The head coach has to report to the athletic director. The athletic director has to report to the president. So if I or any of the head coaches up here bring in a bunch of people that don't know how to act on campus, that don't represent our program well, that don't know how to conduct themselves on the floor, we're going to be out of a job. So it's not just, hey, I'm a good player and the coach is going to put up with all my baggage. It's not going to be like that, because we have people to answer to, and it's a big business at every level. So,
in other words, you coming to my school acting like a fool is not worth my check. I got to feed my family. If you're going to come act crazy, you're not coming to my school. That's the family way of putting it. Last couple of things, we're going to talk about social media awareness and NIL. Then I'm going to allow you all to close us out with any questions or concerns you might have. But I did want to say something real quick about the professional thing. I know a lot of us, played pro ball and stuff. We don't care about that. We really don't care. What we care most about is that allowed us to all be together today. It's more so about the relationships that you build. So again, we keep on saying when the ball stops bouncing, when the football, the air goes out, all those things. What's really important is the relationships that you build over time.
Can I add to that real quick?
Yes.
You mentioned something that I thought was really important, and that's when you go to a university, not only just going there for basketball, right? You got to have a passion for something outside of the game. We talked about mental health and things of that nature. When you struggling basketball-wise, and the only friends you got is basketball, and your roommate's basketball, you gonna want to talk to somebody else about something else, right? So it's good to maybe join a chess club. It might be good to join the engineering club. It might be good to join BSU. It might be good to join all of these other clubs around campus, so you get that outlet every now and then. Because mentally, when you're in a space where you miss that last shot at the end of the game, and that's all everybody talking about, you need that escape. You need to get away. So allow yourself not only to go to school for the game, but go to school, join clubs, be a part of everything, all these other things, because when you come home, it may not be a basketball player that got a job for you. It might be that guy that you sat next to at the engineering club or the finance club or the budgeting club, whatever you want to be a part of. It's about growing and being more dynamic as a person once you reach the university and college levels. So that's what it's really about, and building those relationships that's going to last past those 15 years of playing a professional sport.
That I loved on campus was the Career and Professional Development Office. That's the office that gave all the internships and helped me put all my resume and cover letter together. And then also the alumni office, because what alumni, when they graduate, what they do, they either start business or they work in a company, and they had to come back. So those are the people I'm connected with. The alumni office and the Career and Professional Development. Lived in those two offices. That's how I got my internship with the 76ers for 2 years, and then it propelled me to do other things in life. So keep in connection with my alumni, and then also the Career and Professional Development, because those are two major offices that you should visit on any campus.
Thank you. I'm going to allow Mr. Steve Pena, Esquire. He's our NIL expert here. Again, we didn't have none of that stuff. We didn't have no NIL, any of those opportunities but he's so well versed in that. I know the kids know. Parents, do we know what NIL is? We understand what NIL is a little bit. I'm going to allow Steve to elaborate on what that means.
Okay, let's see. Where do I start? So, I actually think this whole NIL thing probably started with the sports agency that I work with, ASM, because we probably were participating in NIL for years, dating back. But NIL is really basically a new way of athletes benefiting off of their name, image, and their likeness. I will be completely honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of NIL, and I'll explain why. As Mike talked about a second ago about being a professional. Well, one thing that has changed with NIL is you're a professional the moment you step on the campus, because now you're being paid like a pro. So your expectations are different. Your taxes are different. A lot of things that 17, 18-year-old kids are not familiar with are different. Do I understand it? I absolutely understand it. Do I think that it's something that is long overdue? Absolutely. But I think that it is something that needs to be overhauled. I have watched this evolution of NIL, and I have kind of seen how it's going to transition. So when I first started, I talked to you guys about consulting colleges. So one of the things that I consult when I consult with a lot of schools, and they are Division I universities, I explain to them about something called donor fatigue. This whole concept of NIL is eventually going to play itself out because donors are going to get tired of just giving money for athletes to coming in third and fourth place. It's inevitable, which is why they're now shifting to starting this quote unquote salary cap. So now I'm teaching colleges about how to create revenue for the school that will allow them that. What I am hoping with the future of NIL is that we take NIL to a different perspective, and this is what I mean. When I see kids sit down and they negotiate their NIL deals, they want $50,000. What I'm telling parents is, you know what? When you go into that school, you tell them you want a full scholarship for your little brother when he turns 18 years old. Because you know what a full scholarship for a 14-year-old kid in 4 years, if Conrad goes to Penn State and he's got a 14-year-old brother who's not going to be as good as Conrad, he says, you know what? I don't want 50 grand a year. I want my little brother to have a 4-year scholarship. See, that's creating that's the evolution of generational wealth for us. That's where our heads need to be put, as opposed to just trying to have enough money for a Gucci belt. So, I can answer any question about NIL, what it means. I can understand the contractual terms of it, but I'm actually not a huge proponent of it because I think we can do so many things different. I'll give you another perfect example. What's your name, bro? Kevin? Let's say, I'm gonna use Strick. Let's say Strick owns a car wash. Conrad plays for Temple. Strick donates money to Temple for NIL. Conrad's loyalty is no longer going to be to Temple University. It's going to be to the dude that's paying his check because of where we come from and the things that we happen. So now watch this scenario. Strick starts having some financial difficulties at work. And he comes to Conrad and says, Conrad, I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue your NIL. But if you miss these next 2 shots, this next game, it'll put me in a better position. Did anybody ever think about where the kid's loyalty was going to come from when the evolution of NIL started? See, these were all things that I thought about years ago when I first started hearing about this. I said, man, they got this all screwed up because they don't understand the mentality and the mindset of these millennial kids and what we value and what we don't value. So while I'm seeing the evolution of NIL and I understand where it's heading, I'm actually hoping that we take this NIL and we put it to something that is actually going to create use for us and our families in the long term. I know that's not what you wanted me to talk about because I know you wanted me to explain it, but I knew I was going to deviate from it because I don't really technically totally agree with it. But it is essentially the opportunity for you to make money, which is something that Strick or Mike or any of these other guys were not given the opportunity, it does allow you to make money. I think it also puts you in a position where a 17, 18-year-old kid has to make a decision based on finances, as opposed to making a decision on where he's going to play, as opposed to making a decision on where he's going to be happy. You're opening up a Pandora's box of allowing kids to make decisions that may not be the best for them. I listened to this brother talk about the BSU, the Black Student Union, or the chess club, or all these different things. These aren't things that you guys talk about when you look at your NIL deals. You say, how much you're going to pay me to go to your school? And you think because you're going to get paid the most money, you're going to get the most opportunity. But Coach Burke could tell you they don't care about that. Like, this man just sat here and said, if you mess up, he's not going to risk his check for you. You know, we've seen it at a lot of schools. I'm seeing so many things happen as a result of NIL. But again, just from a ground zero aspect of it, you know, you sign a contract to endorse something. Now, let me give you another little scenario about that contract that you're signing. I'm gonna go back to Strick. Strick starts a company called Strickland Collective, strictly designed to pay athletes. Does anybody in here, and if it's not, it's okay, does anybody here know what a limited liability company is, or LLC? You ever heard the term? Okay, so LLC is a limited liability company. So he starts a limited liability company solely to fund his collective. Well, if for whatever reason, Conrad signs a contract to go to Temple, and he signs a contract with that collective, if that collective, because it's not with the school, it's with the collective, which is separate from the school. If he breaches the contract to Conrad, what's Conrad's repercussions? And when I say breach, if he says, I'm not paying you, and goes against the contract, what is Conrad's legal recourse? To sue the company. Well, if the company is only designed to just create money to pay you, what money are you getting from that company? It's $0 in the bank account. These are the things that nobody's ever sat down and really focused on. And if any coaches think that I'm not making any sense, please feel free to chime in. But this is why I'm not really a fan, because they started this thing because the floodgates opened, but they never bothered to regulate or understand how it was going to be applied, especially going to be applied to kids who all they hear was dollar signs. So the contracts that they're written on, they're not valid. It's bullshit. I'm sorry, yeah, it's BS. The University of Florida had a kid named Jaden Rashada. He was the number1 quarterback in the country. Florida promised to pay him $13 million over 4 years. The numbers were astronomical. 2 days before he was supposed to sign his letter of intent, he was supposed to get his first check of $600,000-$700,000. Never came. So he never signed his letter of intent. He wound up going to Arizona State for free. And it became a huge argument because Florida was not on the hook for this NIL deal. It was a collective that was just made up solely for the purpose of doing that. So what I advise parents, I actually work on the school side more than the parent side, but I do advise a lot of parents about how to handle NIL deals. I try to structure their NIL deals very, very specifically. I try to do 1-year deals that are renewable or have the option to renew. I try to somehow tie it to future endeavors through the school and things of that kind of nature, because it now requires a school to actually be invested into the kid outside of them playing basketball. So I really don't, maybe somebody else can talk about NIL, because I really don't have a huge thing other than trying to explain to you the legalities of it, which I did. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a volleyball coach, if you haven't figured it out. Is this only for,
Revenue producing sports? No, everybody can get an NIL deal. And that's the other problem. What was you gonna say? Yeah, gymnasts, everybody can get in track and field. It's the new way. Now, the money is different. So what schools are talking about doing is creating a salary cap of, I think the last number I heard was about $20 million. So a school will have a $20 million pot every year to be able to divvy up. The majority of it's going to go to football and basketball. The volleyball players may get $2,000 or whatever the case may be, but they will get something. But the good thing about this new format is that it's going to be tied directly to the school, and the school is going to be on the hook for liability, which is going to take away the boosters and things of that kind of nature. It's going to now create things, and I think it's going to actually level the playing field. But to get an NIL deal in high school? You mean from an agent or from an athlete? I mean, I just watched the video of your son. Your son should already be having, so it's, go ahead. No, right, so the NIL deals for high school students, again, I think I'm not a proponent of it. So you're asking somebody who probably, because there's so many things that come with it. For example, if your son or player X gets a $20,000 NIL deal in high school, who's paying the taxes on that? So now you got 15, 16, 17-year-old kids with tax liabilities and tax responsibilities that they never really thought they would, because it doesn't come in the form of a W-2, it comes in the form of a 1099. So it's just a lot of different things. But I really do think that kids and their parents, I can't talk about anybody's financial responsibility to their household, because I understand it works differently across the board. But I do think a lot of our structure should be more geared towards, I got a little brother. I want him to have a scholarship if he decides to come, because they will do it. Because if I'm not mistaken, when Tyreek Evans came out of high school, his best friend also got to go to Memphis for free, right? So they will do it. It's just how we structure it. Yeah, he was just telling me. Well, once he signed the contract with the agent essentially serves as his marketing agent. He's going to try to go out and get NIL deals. Really, all the agent really is going to do is pretty much negotiate with the colleges, and that's really all they're going to do. I keep telling parents with kids who are going to be able to get NIL deals in college, you don't need an agent to do that. The agent is going to take 20%, and I could be shooting myself in the foot, but because I'm not really a proponent of it. The agent's going to, if your son is going to go to Louisville, he's going to go to Louisville regardless. You can negotiate what the number is, because the agent is going to pick the highest number. The agent is not going to pick the best fit for your child. And Mike just talked about going to Butler in the Midwest. That's a huge difference coming from, where are you from, Philly? That's a huge difference coming from Philly. This man say he didn't know how to use a fork and a knife. But that's who we are, and that's where we grew up at. Like, so because a school is willing to pay you $800,000, but you might not be able to make it there. Your mental health may not be able to, for you to be able to handle going to school. I've seen so many athletes from this area. When Shep Garner went to Penn State, I was very influential with Shep going to Penn State. When Seth Lundy went to Penn State, I literally told Seth that's where he was going, because I knew mentally what he could and could not handle. It wouldn't have been about NIL. That would have been a byproduct of. It would have been more about what was the best for the kid, and whatever perks come with it, then great. But that would have always been my first thing. So in the case of your son, that would be my first thing, would be what's the best fit for that child, and then you negotiate based around that.
I just want to take a few minutes to piggyback. I'm in compliance. I deal with NLI. I agree 100% with you. I'm not a huge fan, but I wanted to tie this back into the FAFSA, because we talked about the FAFSA being free money. You don't need to make a whole lot of money to ruin your FAFSA. So let's just, real quick, let's just say you filled out your FAFSA and you got $20,000 of loans you don't have to pay back. You go out and you make $10,000 in NLI. You got to pay taxes on it. You just change your family contribution. You go to school next year, and now you got to come out of pocket. Those are the things that people aren't talking about.
Social media, which is the same as if you got so many followers, you getting paid for this, that, and the other. And again, we taking away from what the actual cause. He's a ball player. He loves to play ball. If he goes to school, the objective is to go for free. If he goes to the NBA, he's going to get paid for it. Right now, it's kind of like locking them in 14, 15, 16 years old with a tax and probably doesn't know anything, the difference between the 1099 or, the form that the proper form is for him to complete, for him to pay the taxes back. So I agree with both of you, and I get that everybody wants to highlight and make off their kids, but at the end of the day, to me, I'm all about the education, and sometimes with education, you would know the difference between the two. You can't chase your money, chase your dreams harder than you chasing that dollar, because if you chase your dreams, the money's gonna come.
But
I just wanted to say real quick, like, they speak about NIL as if it doesn't have a incredible mental health impact, right? You pay a kid $100,000 one year, they don't play well. What are they getting the next year? What does that look like for them, right? And let's say they stay and they make $300,000, $400,000 over the next 3 years. Once they're done and they don't go pro, what happens? What happens to that kid? What happens to that family? Things of that nature, like the mental health side of that, as well as making that money, being 18, 19 in college and not having the business savvy to put that money to the side, right? So all of those things come into play. So when we talk about NIL and we talk about going to a university, having that discipline, having all of these things, that person is going to need a ton of support around them. The amount of support that person is going to need is going to be tremendous. So when you're thinking about an NIL deal, you need to have these other things in alignment with it.
There's a study that I just recently saw. Darren Heitner wrote something talking about ever since the NILs have been instituted in colleges, the quote unquote failure rate of college athletes is up almost 60-70%. And it's being tied to the pressures that these kids have to endure. Because again, I'm gonna go back to what Mike said about being a pro. All of us are adults and we all get paychecks. And sometimes we all probably say, man, we wish we were a kid and we had these responsibilities. Because with it comes a lot. It's the Biggie saying. And I've said this to Kristen Chen at the NBA Players Association. Stop assuming because we now make money that all of our problems are going. Because as Biggie said, more money, more problems. It doesn't go away. And there's so many factors that come into play with this. He's right. When a kid's now making $100,000, and in some cases, the kids are making more than the coaches. How is it? Do y'all really understand why Jay Wright and Mike Krzyzewski and all these coaches literally stepped down? Because they were no longer going to be able to run a sustainable program, because now you have an 18-year-old kid making just as much as they are. And they're not mentally prepared for it. They're not psychologically prepared for it. Do I think let me say something. If you gave every single athlete, because first of all, you get a meal plan, your room and board, your room is paid for. If you gave a college athlete, $2,000 a month, they're going to be living like superstars. You don't have to give them $200,000 and $300,000. Because with that, the moment that kid is a flop, and it does happen, me and Strick, how we met, my first ever NBA client was a McDonald's All-American from the University of Arizona, Jawan McClellan. Him and Jawan are very, very close. Jawan never made it. He was one of the McDonald's All-Americans that never made it. Injuries, his father passed, a lot of different things. He talks to this day about all of the mental struggles that he had to go through being labeled a bust at the University of Arizona. Now, times that by a check. Times that by those people that are giving him money, and now his family's relying on that money. And now he's got to play with a torn meniscus because his family is relying on that money. It's a slippery slope. I do think athletes should receive some sort of compensation. I think the numbers are getting ridiculous. And the last thing that I want to say about these numbers, it's funny, it's this running joke that I had when I represented overseas players. Kids will always lie. So a kid might get $50,000 in NIL money, but he's going to tell everybody else he's getting $150,000 because you can't see the contracts. These aren't NBA contracts. You can't verify them. It's like overseas deals, right? So now you have this cost of where everybody is inflating these numbers, and it's probably turning college coaches off. It's a systemic process that nobody has completely figured out. Now I do think eventually it's going to kind of even itself out, but I think for the next 3 or 4 years, this concept of being in the wild, wild west is going to hurt a lot more kids.
It was like a big example of an athlete like Javon Quinterly. Like, how does the like colleges handle like the mental aspect? Because he went to college, he played, ended up like quitting basketball like just recently.
I'm familiar with. He's really good. Another All-American coming out of high school. Went to Villanova, Alabama, Memphis. I believe. Honestly, where I was at Penn State. It don't seem like they're really dealing with that. You took this money, shut up and do your job. Like you just said, you become a professional. Once you start taking that money, you're a professional. Your expectations is raised. You got to do what you took that money for. So you're taking money and you got to put on. You got to go out there and perform. Anybody dealing with no frowns and you might got somebody you can talk to mental health wise, but that football coach still wants you to perform. You can go talk to whoever you want to talk to. When you put these pads on, you got to come perform. You can talk to whoever you want to talk to. When this basketball game starts, you're supposed to get those 11 rebounds that you got paid to get. So you know what you signed up for when you take that money.
So that's something that you as a family and as a student athlete do your homework in the recruiting process. Like the recruiting process is not a one-way deal, right? It's not just the institution or the coaches chasing the student athlete. It's imperative that you guys have a checklist in your mind. What's important to you? Location, education. What study? What are you going to study? What size of the school? And talk to the coaching staff. Like you'll be able to, decipher who's being real, who's not, who values the things that you want to have valued, who doesn't. Go watch that team practice during the season. That's one thing I think is really important because, as college basketball, we play 28 games, but we have over 100 practices. So the majority of your time is going to be on the practice floor, all right? And you're going to see the real side of that coach on the practice floor, and that's what you're going to be dealing with every day. So you have to decide, like, is this a place I want to be? Does this person really value my mental health? Like, that's something that you have to do in the recruiting process and try to, decipher, what's real and what's not.
For the sake of time, I wanted to pivot real quick and speak on one last point before we allow you guys to ask any questions that you want to ask. I'm going to tell you something that nobody will tell you and really be honest with you about. Parents and student athletes, your social media matters. Your social media matters. I'm gonna allow the coaches to kind of speak to that, but I've seen individuals lose scholarship opportunities because their parents are talking crazy, because students are talking crazy. I've literally seen it. So I want you to be aware of that, and I also wanted some of the coaches to kind of speak on that really quickly, and then allow you guys to ask any questions, because I don't want anybody to leave here with a question that they have unanswered or they're afraid to ask or anything. Again, it's family. We really want to get the information out. So just speak really quickly on social media awareness.
That's a big thing. I know we do. When we get, we'll get your name. We'll look for your social media, see what you're doing, because a lot of times what you're doing on the weekend now is what you're going to do on the weekend up at school. And if you're the type of student that's always out partying, always doing that, we're looking at you like, dang, are they going to take it serious? It's not just about having a good time. It's about the academics. What type of things are they doing on the weekend? Is that the type of, student athlete that we want to represent our school? So make sure that you know that, like, we are looking for your TikToks, and we're looking at your Instagram and your Twitter and all the things that you're saying. Are you that student that we think is going to be able to represent our institution in the best way?
I want to go there and tell this funny story about recruiting and being disinterested in a player based on their parent and the student athlete. They don't go to school now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, whether you're a parent or whether you're a student athlete, you should think of yourself as like a business entity, right? And social media is your billboard. So if you're driving up and down 95, you see McDonald's, Subway, all these businesses, none of them put the bad stuff about their product out there, right? So they want to attract people to their product. So anytime, you put something out there to cause someone to have caution about you, whether it's your character, whether it's how do you handle a loss, like whatever it might be, you have to be aware of that, and it can negatively affect you.
No, absolutely. I'm allow others to elaborate real quick, but I'm just kind of laughing because I've literally seen parents going crazy in the stands and doing different things, and coaches like, nah, I'm cool. Like, I'm not dealing with that. Somebody told me a long time ago as a player, like, you got to be worth your BS. If you are not worth your BS, I'm not dealing with you. So again, that's the family conversation I want to have with you all, so you guys understand, boys and girls and parents, how to conduct yourself, while you're going through this process.
I just want to add on to that, right? Like, we're not just recruiting the student athlete. We're not just recruiting the student athlete. Like, the expectation is that the parents are going to be at the game supporting the students, right? And if I come and I sit at a game and I hear a parent going crazy that I'm recruiting, man, they going to be sitting with the other parents. Why would we want to bring that? It's like bringing a bad apple in, just like the student athlete. So we want to make sure that we bringing in good people. Well, our expectation too is that that child comes from those people, right? So it reflects not only upon that student athlete and those parents, but then it reflects on the university when you're at the game as well. And like Dan said, we got jobs at the end of the day, and you brought that to the university. Now you got to deal with it. Those things are important.
Speaking of that, and just piggybacking, we just stopped recruiting a kid because of that. His mom went out and said some crazy stuff to the referee, and we was looking at each other like, you know what? How you do anything is how you do everything, right? So it probably wouldn't change if he came to the university. So we had to honestly let go of that kid. It hurt us because he could have helped us, but in the long term, we want people that's going to be able to, represent themselves in a good way, so to speak.
No, that's great. That's great stuff. Before I turn it over to you, I wanted to mention something briefly in terms of like the way that we carry ourselves. I had heard of a story that there was a coach that went out to see a player, and they didn't go see him against a really good team. They wanted to see him against a bad team that they knew they were going to beat by 30. We wanted to see how you were shaking your teammates' hand that don't necessarily get to play a lot, how you're interacting, how you're carrying yourself on the bench. Those things matter. I brought a coach here a couple years ago to look at a young man play, and he didn't have his best game. He probably had the worst game he had of the season. And the coach turned to me and said, his disposition never changed. He's not yelling at his teammates. He's not mad at his coaches, still carrying himself like a positive young man. So understand that the eyes are always on you. Eyes are always on you. And, to remember to conduct yourself in a positive
manner regardless. You got 0 points, you got 30 points. Everybody's looking. Before I pass it over to you, I'm going to allow the panel if you have anything else to add.
I just want to piggyback on that. We also look at how at the end of the game you interact with your parents. Because if you go to your mom and your dad and you're yelling and fussing at them, well, that's your parents. You have the most respect for them. So how are you going to be when I come and I give you some criticism that you don't like? So just make sure that it doesn't stop once the clock goes off. We're still watching as you're walking out the gym and seeing what you're doing on your way out.
Salim had one, real quick.
Just one more thing. You're going to go through the recruiting process, and you may come across coaches that you know you're not going to that school. It's still okay to say, Coach, you know what? I appreciate you coming out to the games because this guy right here did this, and this is why he'll forever be my guy. I recruited him 11, 12. I was at all his games. And yeah, did he break my heart? But you know what? He broke my heart. He said, Coach, listen, I'm going to this school. I really appreciate coming out to my games. Appreciate you, whatever. That goes a long way because you never know when, you might make that Division I, but something might happen when you might have to come back down. And people are going to remember how you treated them on your way up. So don't forget that. I don't care if you don't want to go to the school or if this coach, just give them the respect and say, Coach, I really appreciate it, but I'm going in a different direction. And that'll go a long way. No,
that's good feedback. I'm sorry for being so long-winded, man. Just something I'm really passionate about. I wanted to make sure we covered a number of topics and allowed you guys the opportunity to just ask questions. I hope that today was beneficial. I really do. This is something that I would like to do every year, with the school district. Again, this is family, this is home, and it's important for us to get this information out to the community. Once again, thanks to Coach Bell, Coach Keith, man, could not have done this without you. And special thanks to my panel. Can you guys give it up for the panel, please?
Let me say something. First of all, I'd just like to thank the panel for coming. I know your schedules are crazy busy. If it's like anybody else's, like mine, start at 5 a.m. in the morning, and it's now 8:35. We're a little older, we're in the bed a little early now, and it's cold in here. I'd just like to thank the parents and the student athletes for just coming. All the information that you're receiving here today, they can easily charge thousands of dollars for this. But they come here to give it to you for free. They come in. This information that they're given, you can't get anywhere else without paying for it. So I'd just like to thank you guys for showing up. And when Strickland asked me this a couple of years ago, Coach, I want to do something for the kids to help them start getting to college. I said, Strick, anything you want. Strick's former player of ours, kid that worked hard for everything that he got. No one has given him anything. The man worked hard, got himself into college, became one of the best players at Alvernia University, and went on to play overseas. No one expected him to do as well as he did, but he has done it. Strick, anytime, any place. I hope this continue each and every year. Next year we'll make it bigger. All right, thank you.
Let's give one more round of applause to our panelists. And thank you, Coach Taylor, Ray Strickland Foundation. Ray, thank you for your expertise. Panelists, thank you for your expertise. My hope is that everyone was well fed of information in regards to higher learning in the process. That concludes our program for this evening. Thank you for coming out. We will have some light refreshments out for you guys. So thank you for coming out tonight.